Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's video, you've probably guessed it already, is about convolution reverb. How do we go out and create our own reverbs? Personally myself, I like to be as unique as possible when composing music in every aspect, and reverb is also one of those. I like to source and record and use my own reverbs. These are known as convolution reverbs. All right, so taking a recording of a space and then using those digitally, applying those over whatever you see fit within your productions. This is known as an impulse response. We use an impulse response to do it. So thinking about the world of reverbs, we have two types of reverbs. Those are mechanical reverbs, which are normally plate reverbs, and also spring reverbs found in guitar amps, for example. The other type of reverb that we use is acoustic. Now that could be external, out in the world, outside, outdoors, or can be also internal reverb, so inside a space. There are so many different spaces the world over. Your most important thing is to think, be creative, and see what you can find out there, all right? So once you've found a space, it's then really important to think about your impulse. So the impulse is the sound that creates the response from the space you're within, the acoustic space, the environment. All right, so you want something loud. I tend to use a balloon, all right, and at times maybe a starting pistol can be used, or there are other loud sources you can use. But yeah, it really is all about creating that really loud sound in the first instance. So for recording, my trusty Zoom F6 recorder is a great piece of equipment. I use that a lot in field recording. I use my Sennheiser MK416 as a main mic, and often my handy H4n, my Zoom H4n, which is always in my camera bag, always out and about with me. It's got 2 XLR inputs as well, so I can use 4 mics with that. Here's me earlier today recording some external and internal acoustic spaces. So that's the recordings. Now it's into the computer. We're going to do some editing, and then we're going to start to use these impulse responses, these convolution reverbs, in our productions. Let's go. So I've named all these recordings now, just having a listen back. As you can hear, there's a lot of unwanted audio on the front of them. So we're going to need to get rid of this in a bit. Obviously, to be really tidy, we just want the impulse and then the response of the environments. So I use Adobe Audition because it's great for batch processing. And let's load this in here. All their files now. And we're just going to start to crop these audio files. Now we need to have the impulse and then the response. Oh, you can hear there. But we don't want all of the noise at the end. Essentially, we are trying to go to the rule of what we call RT60, which I'll explain about in a moment when I do some more of these processing. It's the reverb time fading down to silence, i.e. minus 60 dB. So I'm just trimming that right now to get the best from it. We can do some fades as well in here, batch fades in a bit as well. Perfect. All right, so stop boring you. I'm going to zip through the rest of these. Now going back to what RT60 is, reverb time 60. That's what it stands for, all right, minus 60 dB. Okay, so it's how long the impulse or the response lasts in a space that you record how long it takes for that to fade in seconds, milliseconds down to minus 60 dB, i.e. silence. There's a little bit more to it than that, but essentially that's what it is in a nutshell. We can, of course, measure impulse response times by literally kind of getting a room and working out the measurements and the cubic areas. Alright, so now I'm all done. I'm going to actually do some batch processing on all these files. So I'm going to save them into the same source location. I want them to be exactly the same files, 48 Hz, 24-bit is what they're recorded, so that's all good to go. So all those settings for exporting are set. Now I'm going to choose the process of what I want to do. I want to normalize all these files to minus 0.1 dB, and let's run that. So let's check these out now. There we are, we can see the copies. You can see the bridge copy at the top, every single copy of the original file. Even with the noisy birds on. We'll talk about that in a bit. And now I'm going to do another batch process where we're just going to do some fade outs on the end of all these files as well. You can, of course, in Adobe make up your own custom presets, so I could have spent a little bit of time here making a normalize and a fade action all in one, but yeah, that is something for another day. And there we are, we've now got the perfect fades on them. Alright, so I'm just now going to kind of get rid of all of the older files. I only want to have the original and these final ones. All faded, all ready to go. So here we are in one of my productions, a breaks production. I'm just going to focus on this vocal stab here now. And we're going to play about, add some reverb to it. So my choice software in Logic Pro for loading impulse responses, recorded convolution reverb, is of course Space Designer. I absolutely love this plugin, it's great. So we are dealing with, you can see across the top, sampled IR and synthesized IR. We are dealing with the sampled IR because these are real convolution recordings. All right. So just to show you in Logic, if you go to the presets here, these are all, the majority of these are actual recordings of spaces. If I go to the wet controls here and the dries, we can change the amount of the reverb that's applied to them. And of course we can shorten the length of the reverb as well, the decay times essentially. Let's have a look at some others just quickly so you can get an idea. But what we've gone and done is recorded our own, so we don't really need to use these because every Logic user around the planet has got these same presets. It's great to be unique, like I said. And this is a plate now, so this is obviously a mechanical reverb. Alright, this is a recording of a plate. Now we're going to load our own. So this is where we do it, load IR and initialize. That's what we want to do. So we want it to initialize. So it initializes all the envelopes as well. There will be no envelopes applied to this unless I edit them after. All right, but let's go and find out my files a minute that are recorded. Here we go. Let's choose one. I think we'll go for the school hall first, shall we? And there we go. You can see the blue lines representing we've got no envelopes. We've got no volume envelope on it at the minute. So it is what it is. It's going to be the recording and then fade. All right. So I'm not purposely changing the envelope shape of the sound. So now this is the reverb of the school hall smeared over my stabby vocal. Use the wet and dry amounts. And we can change the length amount and the size. The size is samples, so we're kind of down sampling the file. And length is obviously the decay times. So we can make it sound more short or longer. You notice I switched pre-delay on. Pre-delay allows us to have the sound and then the sample, so we can start to kind of, as you can hear, tremolate the sound, tremolate the reverb. There's a lot of great controls on Space Designer. I suggest having a play. And reverse, love it. You get the sound and then a reverse reverb. It's the same reverb once again. So there we go. Let's load another, see what it's like. And remember, it's up to your DAW. If you've got a device like Space Designer in your chosen DAW that you can load impulse responses into, brilliant. And here's our car park. Huge. Let's try another. Let's go for our bridge, I think. Let's try that at the top. Nice and tight and short, but we can lengthen it and make it bigger. By changing the sample size. So there you go, guys. That's how you do it. That's how you create convolution reverb, use them in your own productions. I hope you have found this video today really, really helpful. I have, as a special, an extra additional special treat for you, supplied a lot of my recent convolution reverbs, as well as the ones that I've recorded for this video today. If you go to blackandgoldaudio.co.uk/sampled, URL's on the screen right now. Create yourself a login and you can download for free my convolution IR responses right now. Go for it. If you've got any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. Until the next time, see ya.